Welcome back to the Getting Dressed podcast. I'm Anthony Bolognese.
And I'm Leah Naleppa.
And today we are talking about accessories. We're not going to get too crazy in the weeds on this because there are so many side tangents that we can go on with this. We're not going to be giving really that much advice on like where to get accessories of any kind, but more so just what is and isn't acceptable for certain situations and styles and people. Some things just, we'll touch on color theory in the way that I think we have in almost every episode. Let's start there. Some people can't pull off gold. Hot take.
Full stop.
Yep. It's just, it's not right for some people.
That is true. I agree with that. Yes, I agree. And I would actually say that about silver as well. Mm-hmm. So I think I mentioned this earlier, but I recently went through color analysis and it was a resounding, you should be wearing more gold and rose golds versus silvers and those whiter metallics.
Yeah. And for context, right now, Leah is wearing not one, not two, but 3 gold necklaces.
And I've got some
basically
gold
an
and orange earrings.
honorary rapper right now. No, they're not gaudy. They're tasteful.
Thank you. But yeah, exactly. So I completely agree with you. I think that is sometimes hard to evaluate though. If you were to just look at your skin tone and should I be wearing gold or silver? And so it actually might take maybe some exploration in that. Again, every skin tone is different, has different hues and undertones. So I can't really necessarily even dictate that to the extent that a color analyst can. But I completely agree with you. My quick hot take about metallics is if you're not necessarily following that rule of thumb, whether you should be wearing gold or silver, most metallics actually do match each other. So you can mix and match metallics, just generally speaking, and make it look really cool. So it doesn't look like it's starkly silver, starkly gold. Add a little bit of copper in there.
Yeah,
it's a gradient.
Any of the metallics kind of have that gradient between each other. There's rose golds that look more like silver than they do like gold, or vice versa, The only time that I will kind of push back on that just a little bit, the only time that I am actively trying to tone match my metallics is if I'm wearing a French cuff shirt and have cufflinks and a watch on at the same time.
Yes.
Because those, just the proximity to each other it just makes it easier to tell when something doesn't match as well as it can. So I have a very select number of watches that I have matching metallic cufflinks for. Not matching in matchy-matchy style, same set, but definitely the same tone of metallic.
Yeah. No, I do agree with that for sure.
On the topic of watches as well, this is, our last episode was talking about fashion faux pas and our personal pet peeves on style. So I think this is going to kind of bleed in a little bit just because that's the frame of mind we're in right now. But watches, I think, are a good place to start because they're pretty much gender neutral. Everyone can wear a watch. Size of the watch is also very important. So both the size and the style, that's pretty much the two determining factors that people use when buying a watch for themselves. Most people's wrists are about 6 or 7 inches around. That number doesn't really change other than in some extreme circumstances. There's a big misconception when people say watches are too big for my wrist. I think that there is some truth to that. There are some examples that you can say, oh yeah, this 60 millimeter watch is probably too much for anybody's wrist. But
Yeah, I agree. I actually think watches look really nice on most people because there's so many different styles of watches. I think it adds a nice polish to a casual look, and it adds a nice refinement to a professional look. The watch that I wear, which you've constantly seen, and I actually am wearing it now, is just this basic rose gold, small, clean-looking watch that was gifted to me from Movement, and I think it's great. I wear it casually. I wear it professionally.
Disclaimer, we are not sponsored by Movement.
No.
She was given it on other circumstances.
I'm just trying to recommend brands, man. But anyways, yeah, I'm here for a good watch. I agree with you. The proportionality is huge, and I will bring that up in other parts of this episode as well.
Okay. As far as the, I guess, rules of thumb, we're guaranteed to miss some stuff, gloss over some things just for the sake of time and getting to as much as we can. But some general rules of thumb for watches in general. Color is necessary to think about. If you are building out a watch wardrobe to kind of match with certain outfits that you have, some good rules of thumb are, as we mentioned, the metallics. If they're just completely that, then that's totally fine. Something with black or kind of a neutral or gray or white as the main focus is pretty much always going to be fine. For the basic colors, you're probably going to be safe with a blue because most people have blue in their wardrobe and wear it pretty well. And then anything else in the earth tone family that can match with potentially a leather strap would also be pretty safe. Generally speaking, I also match the watch strap color to the shoes / belt that I'm wearing. But that's I wouldn't say that's a steadfast rule. It's kind of more just a personal thing.
Yeah. And I think, curious to know your thoughts on this, but I think it's actually important that men, when they're dressed in a professional setting, do wear a watch. To me, that's one of the few accessories that really work well with the full outfit. And I think it's a shame when they don't.
Definitely. I think it's definitely a shame because it's a wasted opportunity. It's not for the sake of being gaudy. It doesn't have to be a Rolex. It doesn't have to be, something fancy and ornate. But it is something that just kind of makes people look a little bit more refined when they have it on. I am gritting my teeth a little bit to say this, but even an Apple Watch or any kind of smartwatch, like having something on the wrist that kind of adds that there. There are certain situations where I would say that it doesn't look right. If you're going black tie, probably ditch the Fitbit or the Apple Watch or the Garmin watch or whatever.
Yes.
You're not counting your steps on the red carpet. Like, you're fine. But that being said, there are plenty of designer, and not designer in name brand, but designer as in style straps for smartwatches. So Apple themselves, I think, makes several leather straps for the Apple Watch that make it look a lot better and elevates the look versus having the silicone
Oh my goodness,
strap.
it looks so bad when you're dressed really well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So
It does.
I personally am a big watch guy, so I do not own a smartwatch, but I know that a lot of people live and die by their smartwatches. So it can be worn well, but I would also grab one or two additional watches just for those special occasions when you don't need to be checking your texts at the dinner table or on stage or wherever you end up being.
Totally agree. Yeah. This is totally a different direction, but I want to hear your takes on this. What about nose rings?
Honestly, they're fine.
I agree with you.
I'm totally fine with them. When you say nose ring, the first thing I think of is the side stud or the side hoop.
Yes.
Something a little bit less bold.
Yes.
I would say, and this is not a style thing per se, as it is, I think, a person thing. Some people can absolutely rock a septum piercing. Some people, I just don't think it looks right. And I think if you're that person.
I agree.
So if you have a septum piercing, chances are it looks good. But either way, I don't think that I'm definitely not a conservative guy in almost any aspect of my life. So I'm totally fine with, tattoos, piercings, anything in a formal setting because it's a part of, your personal brand.
Right.
That is who you are outside of just the clothing that you decide to wear, which is a big part of that. So my ruling is absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think a couple years ago I would have said no unless it's for very specific settings, but I have changed my mind on this. I think overall it can look classy while having just like the littlest bit of edge of like, okay, this person's got a little funk to them, and I'm here for that.
My friend Dan, I don't know if you've met Dan, but
I don't think so.
My friend Dan dresses absolutely fantastically, and I think it was about this past year, he got his nose pierced, the side, and he has a little hoop, and he absolutely rocks it.
Yeah.
And he's so happy with it, and it's really fun to see, and he's just like, it's a great casual look, and it is still totally acceptable in a suit.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Big fan.
I think it's so cool.
Love you, Dan.
Little shout out.
Yeah. Daniel Scott Kane on Instagram. He's hardly ever active, but go get him. Go flood his DMs because he deserves it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, cool. So rings. Like finger rings. I love rings.
I'm going to shout out another friend of mine.
Okay. Well, please do. I mean, really quickly, like I think rings are really cool for both men and women.
Yeah.
I feel naked when I'm not wearing rings. I love rings. I mean, yes, if you're wearing them on every single finger, it might be a little bit too much.
Yep. Yep. I've got takes here.
But I think overall rings can be super cool. I mean, for like a cocktail ring, which is a bolder, usually like a bigger gemstone or just some kind of statement ring is just beautiful, especially for women, who are getting dressed up. You want that statement piece. But I think there can be so many like little dainty ones, metal, even like some plastic ones are really cool. But I think rings really just show a little more oomph to the whole look.
And I think they also, in a lot of ways, kind of dress down a look. I think that, bringing it back to nose rings, I think that, like the way that you put it, they give a little bit of an edge to an outfit. I think that a lot of the times rings will actively not class down, but dress down an outfit a little bit. Even kind of bringing it to the level of like a signet ring. Those, personal opinion, this may or may not be a hot take, but I think a signet ring is kind of a mark of, let's say, the higher echelon of society, or the self-imposed higher echelon of society, in the alternate way that I think a class ring is representative of someone who can't let go of high school.
That's fair.
And honestly, women's class rings look totally fine. Men in their 20s, 30s, 40s that are still wearing a class ring, get your shit together. Unacceptable.
I think it's a little bit different for college class rings, maybe.
They're still
for
super big and gaudy, and they just
it's
don't
like
work
once
as
in
a
a while,
daily
maybe,
driver.
Yeah, maybe reunions.
Yeah,
you know?
reunions. I mean, it's like a Super Bowl ring. Like,
Right.
nobody's wearing
They
their
are
Super
gaudy.
Bowl ring just like out to. I was about to say Walmart. Super Bowl players aren't going to Walmart. Out to just whatever mall you're shopping at. Like, that's just not. It's too much.
I know someone who constantly wears this ring, and the gemstone is clearly missing.
Ooh.
Yet he constantly wears it. And I'm like, this looks so unprofessional. Not even unprofessional, just like not classy, like so tacky, unclassy. Like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
But every day has it on when I see him. And I think it's just a terrible look.
That's rough.
It is rough. Yeah, exactly. It's like, just be happy with the wedding ring you're wearing and not the other ring. So there are definitely some downsides to rings if your gemstones are missing. But other than that, I love the ring situation.
My other shout out, my old roommate and one of my best friends. He went through a phase back in, I think, 2017, maybe a little bit earlier than that, where he had a ring on every single finger at all times, no matter what he was wearing.
Oh, boy.
And they were very much the skull and, crown and like all these other like very grunge looking rings. And to be fair, he rocked it. It was a part of his look. He's very much always been that kind of like I don't care.
Countercultural look.
Yeah, like definitely just the edge with him is definitely different than I think a lot of other people, and he has the confidence to pull off that kind of stuff. He would even do it with suits, but I would say that unless that is very much you and your style and what you are actively putting on the table, probably not.
Yeah.
And even now, like, my friends and I in that group, including Dan, we'll bring up to him like, hey, remember that time? Because yeah,
We all have our
it's always
phases.
yeah, he had many phases.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I know you have more hot takes about this, but tattoos.
Love them.
Okay, well, we're done with that topic.
Yep, hard stop. Love them. I'm not.
Are they professional, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to debate the quality of tattoos. I've got some very bad tattoos. I've got some very great tattoos. And I think it's situationally dependent. The most visible one that I have is on the top of my hand, which that one is almost impossible to hide, but that was a conscious decision. Pretty much everything else is easy to hide. And I dress for the occasion. Even if I'm going to a slightly more casual event with, clients or something like that, I'm going to at least be wearing, a sport coat and pants.
Right.
Never shorts. And generally speaking, I'm going to have most of my tattoos covered. But it's also not against the rules to have them. Like I right now, and what I've had on all day with my less conservative clients has been just a dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, and I've got tattoos on my forearms and wrist and hand, and like they're very visible. But it's one of those things. It's like the rings. It kind of matches who I am.
Right.
And that's a conscious decision for personal brand that also meshes to an extent with the style.
Yeah. And I think there's a couple things to think through here is overall, I do agree with you, but I think it also depends on the industry you work within and the people you're working with, because it is much more of a conservative, traditional idea that tattoos shouldn't show, right? And I disagree with that idea overall, but the ones that are showing probably shouldn't be too gaudy if you're in a really elevated workplace or a more traditional workplace, right?
Well, that's what I mentioned at the beginning. Like, I'm not going to debate the merits of a quality tattoo versus a bad tattoo,
right?
In the sense of the design that you chose, or the person that did it, or how much you spent on it, or like how long it's been there, or color or not, like whatever. Like that has no bearing on it showing. Probably don't get something phallic. And if you're on Reddit and you want a subreddit to follow, ATBGE. Awful taste but great execution. There's a lot of tattoos on there and a lot of questionable decisions. So
Oh my god.
go spend 10 minutes of your life looking through that, and you'll see what I mean when I say probably not something phallic. But no, there's no issue, and I do agree with you that there's definitely the movement in culture is shifting toward acceptance of tattoos, and there are still situations in which people are more conservative and hold those beliefs that they shouldn't be visible. Just gauge the situation. Even if you have them, if you're considering getting them, get them in places that you are 100% confident that it will be okay.
Right.
For your lifestyle and your career situation.
Yep. I completely agree with you. But overall, I'm here for the tattoo. I don't think it's wrong. Again, being cognizant of what types of tattoos are actually showing too is going to be important. But overall, I think they can be professional. They're super important to personal brand for a lot of people.
Yeah.
This is coming from someone who doesn't have tattoos and
talking to someone who has
a lot.
Lots of square footage.
Lots of square footage. Yeah. So I was super into a tattoo at one point, and now I'm actually considering potentially getting one. So
you're welcome. I'm corrupting her.
I know.
I'm doing my best. Something that I think a lot of people don't think about as far as accessories are socks.
Socks. Yeah.
It's definitely it's a
Totally.
functional part of an outfit, but it's still an accessory. I think every person who wears dress socks has gone through a silly sock phase. I am decidedly out of that phase, but there are certain times where I think it's kind of fun. It makes sense.
I think one of my favorite situations is when a bunch of interns all come to DC in the summer and they're wearing their little black suits and their white Adidas socks with their black dress shoes. And I am just like, go home.
It's not even an Ivy look.
It is not. It is a look, but it's not one for the East Coast man.
That is a fantastic way to put that. Yeah, that sucks.
So,
generally
but
speaking,
that's a good illustration of how important socks are to an outfit as an accessory.
Yeah, and the basic rule of thumb, and there's not a whole lot of official ruling on this. The socks are an extension of your pants. So if you're wearing a navy suit, your chances are you're going to be wearing navy socks, and then whatever shoes you're wearing. If you're wearing tan chinos, tan socks, that's pretty much the easiest framework with which you can operate within.
2 questions, actually, since we're on the sock topic. One, what about fun socks? So if you're wearing like a purple top or like a purple tie, does it matter? Or should you consider if you put like a different type of pattern, but purple socks? And second question is, can you wear socks, for men especially, can you wear socks with like a leather loafer?
Mm-hmm. So I think I should define what I think of when I think of fun socks first.
Okay.
Because thinking
That's
of like
fair.
an Argyle pattern or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking.
Or like a houndstooth or something with a pattern. Those, I wouldn't consider those fun socks.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider them more fun than solid. But when I think fun socks, I think like novelty style socks. Like you think about fun ties. You don't think about something in plaid. You think about something with Snoopy on it. So
like my husband has socks that have like little golf flags and golf
So on
clubs
brand.
all over. It's so on brand. I'm just like, yeah, that checks out.
But it makes sense if he's on the golf course.
Right.
Whereas if he's just at work, I mean, again, it depends on the situation for the individual. If you work in a very casual environment and you can just throw them on under a pair of jeans or something like that.
No, he wears Abraham Lincoln socks to work.
Also on brand. Is it Abraham drinking?
I wish.
All right.
But no.
We all wish we were Abraham drinking. No, fun socks. I mean, I don't want to be the curmudgeonly old man that says absolutely not to them, but I am definitely past that phase in my life. I representing the brand that I do. I don't think that the high end custom suit market meshes well with the fun sock demographic and market.
Fair.
So I am personally past that, but I would say just again, same as tattoos, know your situation. Don't wear your golf club socks to a black tie event.
Right, exactly. And then what about that second question, the socks with the loafers?
With loafers,
I feel like I've heard different perspectives of this.
So generally speaking, assuming the loafer doesn't have any like loose leather inside that chafes of toe or something like that, I think it's totally fine just not to wear socks with loafers. If I am wearing socks with loafers, chances are they're going to be the no-show socks, and they're going to be the same color as either my skin or the loafers. Right now, I am wearing black penny loafers, like woven penny loafers with black no-show socks, and there's a tiny, tiny bit of show just like under the tongue. But it's very minimal. I personally have never been a big fan of wearing full-length socks. with loafers.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that that's kind of counterintuitive. Like the loafer is decidedly a little bit more of a casual look. I think that showing too much sock is just kind of an issue. On the bottom and the top. I know this is not technically a portion of the topic we're talking about, but while we're talking about socks, definitely tailor your pants to have a hem that when you sit down, you're not showing the entire length of your sock.
Totally.
And buy socks that go high enough that you don't see skin.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big pet peeve as well.
There's
having,
nothing more awkward than like the show of the pant, the end of the pant, a hairy leg, and then a long sock that was never meant to be fully showed.
Yeah, especially if it's actually meant to be a long sock and it's just crinkled up. Like lots of products exist to fix that, or just buy socks that are longer and go properly over your calf.
Yeah,
but
not a big deal.
I think that was longer than I think we probably should have spent on socks.
Yep.
But what's left? Necklaces. I mentioned your gangster necklaces, your 3 gold chains you got on right now.
So yes, I'm not going to go into like the full breadth and depth of necklaces right now, but I think I just want to cover a couple basics for women especially, but love to hear your takes on men. I think gold chains are really in right now, especially for women. As you guys know, I'm wearing 3 of them. And you can really delicately but boldly, depending on how thick they are, mix and match them together to make this really cool look for almost any outfit. I mean, right now I'm dressed a little bit more, between business casual and business professional. I still have them. I would wear these identical necklaces with like a tank out to eat or something like that, very casually. So that's the first thing that you can invest in. You can literally buy them for like $15 on Amazon. You don't have to invest in this because I think it's honestly a trend right now. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I would recommend for women, especially if you're trying to accentuate your waist, is a longer necklace. It can be a little bit more rounded. It can have maybe like a teardrop type of pendant at the bottom, so it pulls it down a little bit more V-style. But you're going to want to accentuate your waist with that particular type of piece. It also makes someone who has a little bit bigger bust, who's wearing a high neck, or high neckline, excuse me, it doesn't accentuate their bust as much, and it actually pulls the eye towards the waist again. And so that's another piece that I'd recommend for almost any woman, because I think it's a really cool piece that you can add over a super solid shirt. And then I love a good statement necklace. Again, usually these pieces are really kind of the main event for your outfit if you're wearing a solid dress, a solid shirt and slacks or something like that. But a statement necklace is going to be really, really cool piece that you can add to an otherwise maybe boring outfit, or outfit that is just desperately crying for color and shine. And I love a good statement necklace, and I think there's just so many that I really can't like define it for one person versus another, because everyone's going to be different. Yeah,
and I think statement necklaces are one of my favorite things to see. Mm-hmm. It's dependent on the neckline, and there's a great ratio that you can kind of hit with your statement necklaces, but they can be anything from, a multiple string pearl necklace to something that's very not clunky, that's a bad word, chunky, a little chunky, mm-hmm. And metallic in some way, something like braided or woven, a little bit chaotic, but in an artsy way.
Lots of like faux gems are in there. There's some really fun things that you could do with it.
Yeah, and it's so dependent on the person wearing it, whether you like it or not. Like some people like very, very dainty, simple, slim things, but some people can really rock something a little bit more chunky and big and bold. But that neckline conversation with yourself is something definitely to have. Do your research. Everyone's going to see it differently. Everyone's going to want to wear it differently. So just kind of see what the average neckline in your wardrobe shows, and what pieces you can imagine yourself wearing to kind of accentuate that or distract from that, depending on the situation.
Totally. And a quick general rule of thumb before we move on is this does not expand across the entirety of the necklace conversation, but I do want to mention, if you're just starting off like, oh my goodness, I'm scrapping all my jewelry and starting over, I would generally say look at the necklines in your wardrobe and match the necklines with your necklaces. So if you have a higher scoop neck, it's probably ideal to get a shorter scoop neck shape necklace versus a V-neck that awkwardly goes over the neckline of your shirt. Same with something that's more V, get a more V-shaped necklace. Again, this is not necessarily something that you can't break over the course of, your different outfits. But if you were starting from the basics, that is what I would recommend.
Yep. As far as men, I personally am not a necklace wearer, but I think that it can be a good look. I would say that as a general rule of thumb, business casual and above, probably avoid a necklace. Anything in the casual realm, it's pretty much anything goes. If you are the kind of guy that gives off that puka shell necklace vibe, you're welcome to bring it on. But generally speaking, I think the necklace options for men are a lot more limited. You're going to generally see, a silver or a gold chain, or multiple, but that's about it.
And maybe the exceptions would be wearing it either under your button shirt or maybe opting for like a gold bracelet instead of the necklace. If you're really wanting to add a different piece, the bracelet might be more where it's at if you're in a business professional type of setting.
And that also is a great transition into bracelets. And that's a equally fluid conversation for both men and women. Women definitely have more options in that regard, but one of the more recent, over the past several years trends is the series of leather bangles and bracelets and stuff for men, as well as the classic chain bracelets. I don't necessarily think that there are any real hard rules here. I think it's a new enough trend that those rules haven't been written in stone anywhere. But kind of in the same way that you mentioned that the layered necklaces for women are a trend right now, I think that the layered bracelets for men are as well. Whether they're leather, whether they're a synthetic material, whether they're a chain of some kind, it depends on your personal style. And that's something that you kind of have to figure out for yourself. But I would say don't go overboard. You know what overboard is like. I don't know if anybody remembers or had this experience, but back when those Live Strong bracelets were the thing.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm having like horrible flashbacks. Like,
Yeah. So and this actually would have been a good
so
answer.
Many wristbands.
This would have been a good answer for the last episode, mentioning like your worst fashion decisions or fashion faux pas that you did.
My goodness,
I used to collect those and wear them all at the same time. So I think
just like up the forearm.
Yep. So thank absolute Christ that is not the thing anymore. I haven't seen that or thought about it other than right now since I did it.
Oh my goodness.
You know what overboard looks like, I hope. If
That's
you're listening
it.
to a style podcast, chances are you have some general idea of that.
Oh my goodness.
But there's really no right or wrong answer. I would say, again, try to match your color palette as well as possible, but otherwise it's personal preference. The one rule that I will kind of off the cuff mention that I think probably exists is the more formal you opt to go, the less accessories you should be wearing. That's when the statement pieces come in. The statement pieces for women can be that, key necklace. And I think the statement piece for men honestly should be a nice watch.
I agree with you. When it comes to elevating your look, both for bracelets and overall accessories, I think you want to focus on balance. Like you're not going to want to wear statement earrings with statement bracelet and statement necklace. It's like, where are my eyes looking? How is this actually adding to your outfit? I think it all should be in proportionality with each other, balance each other with like the metallics that you're wearing or the colors that you're generally wearing. And if you want your necklace to be the statement, then wear less bracelets. If you want the earrings to be the statement, maybe don't wear a necklace at all and a few bracelets on your wrist, or pull in the colors from your earrings to your bracelets. So exactly to your point, I don't think there's really a lot of rules around bracelets. Some people hate wearing bracelets. I don't even recommend them at all. Other people like wearing a few bracelets and others a lot. But overall, when it comes to pieces to your wardrobe, for accessories, make sure balance is the key factor.
Definitely. And I know there are several things that we probably missed in this episode. We might come back and do this again, with a more specific topic or something like that. But let us know what you think. If you agree with or have anything, to say about these opinions that we have, definitely let us know. And if you feel like there is something that we missed, we'd love to hear about it. At Getting Dressed Podcast on Instagram. Shoot us a message, respond to what we got going on, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.